YouTube, what is up everybody? Doom Wake here. We are back with another video. Today we're doing something a little bit different. As you can see here, we actually have a Pioneer deck in front of us. So I recently played, actually yesterday, I played the Pioneer Super PTQ, Super Pro Tour Qualifier on, or I guess Super Qualifier, it's not really the Pro Tour Qualifier anymore. But I played a Pioneer Super Qualifier event on Magic Online. And the event in question is pretty simple. It's open event to anybody. You can enter with 40 tickets, 400 play points, 40 qualifier points. So everybody can enter. It's not gated by qualifier points only entry as some of the regular non-super qualifiers are. So again, open event and Pioneer format. And the top two finishers, so first and second place, both qualify for the next championship. I guess this one would be the Strixhaven Championship, I believe. So that was the event we played yesterday, and then I'm going to give you a little bit of an intro on the deck, and just kind of my general thoughts. So before we continue, just as always, if you are new to the channel, be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the content. And yeah, so let's get started. So the qualifier was yesterday. We played this Pioneer 4-color Fires of Invention Transmogrify deck. And I don't have a ton of experience with Pioneer. The last time I played this format was, I think, about 3 months ago. I did play a couple of leagues with various decks a couple of days ago, just kind of a little bit of practice, and I wasn't really happy with any deck that I played. So I was going to register Mono Green Devotion, which is a deck that I've played in the past and I have some, good experience with. And I just kind of wasn't really sold on it. I played a league with it and did okay, but it, wasn't, I wasn't super excited about it. So I kind of was, looking for other decks to play like a couple hours before the event. And I talked to one of my friends, and they sent me this deck. They told me that they were playing this deck. It's great. So I was like, okay, well, it looks fun, so I'll give it a shot. And just to kind of give you a little bit of a backstory, the event that we're about to see, I did play it live on stream. And because I played it live on stream, there's actually a couple of matches after the Swiss round, so the top 8 rounds. I did go ahead and play those on live stream with a hand hider, so I didn't record those and upload those to YouTube. But as far as every Swiss round, that is what you're about to see. Rounds 1 through 9, because I played those without a hand hider live. So that's what I decided to upload for. I didn't even plan on uploading it, but it's good content, so I figured that y'all would enjoy it. But just to kind of go over the deck a little bit, it is based around Fires of Invention, which if you've played Standard in the past couple of years, you will vividly remember this card. I believe it got banned, I want to say like 6 or 7 months into it being legal. I'm not sure on the exact timeline. But a card that was previously banned in Standard. Essentially what it is, lets you cast spells for free, as long as those spells cost less than or equal to the number of lands you control, and you can only cast 2 spells every turn. So the idea is to play a bunch of powerful 4-drops, which, as you can see, the majority of our cards cost 4 mana. Fires itself, Transmogrify, which is a play on Polymorph, an old card that essentially says exile a creature, flip cards from the top of that player's deck until they hit a creature, put that into play. The only creature we in our deck is Agent of Treachery, so we're always transmogrifying into this, which you can steal permanents from your opponent. You can steal their lands to kind of mana screw them, especially if you cast it on turn 4. Stealing a land could be pretty backbreaking. You can steal Planeswalkers. And then we have a Yorion. This is a Yorion deck because Yorion is pretty broken with Agent, because you can blink the Agent and you still get to keep the permanent, plus you get another permanent. And we also have some things that are good with Yorion. Narset, which is obviously great with Yorion. You minus it twice, then you can blink it, reset it. Omen of the Sea, draw a card, scry 2. Chain to the Rocks, which is pretty cool because sometimes you chain to the rocks like a small creature early on, then your opponent plays a better creature, and then on your Yorion turn, you can just give them back the small creature that largely doesn't matter at that point, and you get to take their big creature, which is kind of cool. We have some sweepers to defend ourselves against aggressive decks, and then we have token generators, Raven's Warning and Asika's Chariot, along with Birth of Meletis too, which also makes an 0/4. So we have 12 token generators to give us a creature to transmogrify into. And especially the nice thing about Raven's Warning is on the 3rd chapter, So the first chapter is you make a 1/1. Second chapter is you draw a card when you hit them with a flyer. And then the third chapter is you get to take a card you own from outside the game in your sideboard and put that on top of your library. So as you can see, our sideboard is we have 4 copies of Dovin's Veto, and then our Yorion. I'll explain the second Yorion in a bit. And then the rest of our sideboard is just a bunch of 1-ups, which are mostly tutor targets for Raven's Warning. The only exception being Void Winnower and Resolute Archangel, which what you can do against a deck like Burn, for example. So Resolute Archangel says when it comes into play, if your life total is less than your starting life total, it becomes your starting. So basically, if you're at 5, you gain 15. If you're at 10, you gain 10. Your life total becomes 20. So against something like Burn, you could imagine if they're dealing a ton of damage to you early on, you would want to transmogrify into this, so if they put you to 5, you just reset your life total, and they're probably out of gas at that point. So what you do against a deck like Burn is you actually cut your Agent of Treacheries, and you bring in the Resolute Archangel, which is kind of cool. So that means you always transmogrify into this. Same thing with Void Winner if you're playing against a combo deck, specifically Lotus Field. I don't believe Lotus Field can actually beat this card if it's in play. I do believe they have ways to remove it, but I think they cannot physically win the game if this card is in play. So that's another thing you can do. Board out Agents, bring in this against Lotus Field. And then, again, so those cards you don't typically want to Raven's Warning for. There are situations where maybe you would. But these are like your high impact Raven's Warning targets. And a lot of them did come up in the PTQ. I think Yasharn did not, and Rest in Peace did not, but the other 5 did, I believe, come up at certain points. Specifically, like the Anger of the Gods and the Supreme Verdict are awesome to have access to in the sideboard, because against aggro, it kind of curves nicely because you play this on 3. And then you get the Chapter 2 on turn 4, and then on turn 5, you get the card back. So you put Anger of the Gods in your deck on top of your deck. Now, again, you don't get to put it in your hand, so you can't cast it immediately. However, with Omen of the Sea and Shark Typhoon, you have 8 ways in your deck to cycle for 2 mana, which essentially means you can play land 5, cycle for 2 mana, draw the Anger, cast it that turn, which is really cool. And then, again, the rest of the sideboard is just some Dovin's Vetoes. Okay, and then the other token generated, we have a Shark Typhoon, which you can, pay 3 mana, wake a 1/1 token, and then transmogrify the 1/1 token. And then also Seeker's Chariot, which is also a token maker, but it's also just like a really good standalone threat. Just being a 4/4 that, essentially makes 2 power when it attacks. You can also copy Shark tokens. You can copy O4 tokens, which came up a couple of times against aggro decks. So just a really nice card, makes bodies for transmogrify, and just a good standalone threat. We have a Singleton Nahiri, which I'm not 100% sold on. I think this Nahiri probably wants to be in our sideboard, although you want it somewhere in the 75, because something that came up against Burn is they have Whirling Vortex, which is a card you don't really have an answer to outside of Nahiri. So what you actually do against Burn is you sideboard out the Nahiri to have it in your sideboard, so you can then Raven's Warning for it when they have Whirling Vortex, which did come up, so that's kind of cool. And then, again, the rest of the sideboard for Dovin's Vetoes for the control matchup when you want to cut some of your sweepers. And then the second Yorion. So when I copied this deck list, I actually thought it was a typo with the second Yorion. And I talked to the person who told me that they were playing this deck and kind of asked them about it. The concept behind the second Yorion is obviously you can't reveal both when you start the game. But because you have Raven's Warning, there are potentially situations where you would want to Raven's Warning for a Yorion, either, but keep the one in the companion zone so you have access to it later in the game. So, like, let's say you play Raven's Warning, Chapter 3, you get the Yorion, but if you only have one Yorion in your sideboard, you then can't companion the other Yorion later in the game because it's out of your sideboard now. And that actually did come up a couple of times too, so that was kind of cool that the second Yorion was relevant, because I wasn't sure about that one. And then the mana base, bunch of cycling lands to fix our mana, some shock lands, Fabled Passage to fix all that stuff. So that is the deck. I don't want to spend too much time on it. So yeah, I hope you enjoy the content. Again, remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in a little bit for round number 1.